One little thing I want to talk about is the database we are using. Right now we are using MySQL for our test, and that's not the best choice for our test because it takes some time for us to actually save a record to our database, which is on the hard disk, and then retrieve that data before our test is completed. So if I run our test suite right now, everything, we can see it takes almost 6 seconds to run. But then what I'm going to do is actually switch the database that we are using for our test, and I'm going to use MySQLite. So first of all, let me just create a MySQLite database, and I'm just going to call it testing.sqlite, and I'm going to save it in my database directory. So touch database/testing.sqlite, and sure enough, in our database directory, we should have testing.sqlite created for us. Now, how do we tell Laravel to use an SQLite database which is much lighter, much faster than MySQL because it works in memory rather than using the default that it's using? So how do we tell Laravel to actually use SQLite, which is much faster and better for testing rather than using MySQL? Let's head over to our database.php, and right here, let's check out our connections. We have the SQLite connection, which is database.sqlite. We'll change that connection to testing.sqlite, and the MySQL connection is already set. So we're going to be telling PHP unit in particular to use this database connection rather than using this one. So let's go to phpunit.xml, and what we're going to do right here is create a new environment variable, and this file is simply a configuration for PHP unit. So a lot of boilerplate is put in right here for us by Laravel, but let's not really care about that. Let's just go ahead and create an environment variable that is gonna set the database to use. So db connection, like we said, we want to use SQLite for testing, and the last thing we need to pass in is db database, and we're gonna say the database should be in memory. So that's it for our configuration. Let's try now to run our test, and we can see the amount of speed that we gain just by changing our database driver. So first of all, we were using a MySQL connection. If I change this to MySQL and cut this out, we can see that it took almost 4 seconds. It took more than 4 seconds to actually run our test. But if I change this back to SQLite and use an in-memory database, we can see the amount of time that is saved. So it's really, really fast. The difference is outstanding. And by the time you're writing applications that have about 100 to 200 tests, this is going to really be very helpful because you don't want to send your code to a developer and he takes hours upon hours to test your code. Okay, so this is pretty fast. It's not even up to half a second, and it's perfect for testing.